Welcome again to the Quantum. This is Manal Zainuddin, and I share here with you conscious learning and being, an aspect of my approach in education. In the previous two videos, I shared an introduction to this playlist, The Quantum. I invite you to check those videos if you haven't done that yet, and subscribe so that more of this knowledge can reach educators and parents. Like mentioned before, the quantum concept is very complex and has its revered scientists, but it is worth exploring and learning from those scientists because this knowledge embodies the core of our lives and the world we live in. However, through reading and learning, we can understand its basics and its effect on our lives, on our attitudes, perspectives, and even decisions. I always share Plutarch's famous saying, quote, "The mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled." End quote. Education is much beyond schooling and schoolwork. Education is never separate from us, conscious beings. Today we add another fact stemming from very common information that we ourselves were taught in schools and that is still taught to this day in almost all schools around the world. This information is found in every chemistry book in middle and high school of all educational systems, and it is the periodic table. As we all know, the periodic table is a columns and rows arrangement of chemical elements according to the increase of the total number of protons in the nucleus. Through this law, called the periodic law, elements in the same column or group have similar properties. This discovery was first made in the 19th century, particularly in 1869 by the Russian chemist Dmitry Mendeleev. Looking at the periodic table for elements and their weights is like looking at the world map for continents, countries, and cities. The periodic table has undergone several changes due to several debates in the world of science. To settle the disputes and standardize, though partially, the periodic table is now managed by the International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry, or IUPAC. What we were not taught and what we are not still teaching is that the periodic table is often referred to as, quote, messy and chaotic. Some numbers based on very good approximations still cannot answer controversial questions, end quote, with elements that fully exist, or elements that are still being discovered, elements that are floating below known as the F block, because they simply have no place inside the table. The mathematical chemist Guillermo Restrepo at the Max Planck Institute for Mathematics encourages scientists to think beyond the periodic table, focus on the periodic system rather than the table, because as he describes it, the system is like a sculpture, which means it can be redesigned as per need and updates, while tables are like shadows, quote, cast by lights shown from different angles, end quote. He encourages scientists to use the tables they see more useful to them rather than stay focused on one table. This is very interesting in many ways. Point number 1. Life is as complex as a periodic table, can be chaotic, can become messy, can have inaccurate elements, and always has indefinite answers. Accepting that is the first step towards surrender. Accepting is not weakness here. It is rather a form of strength, because whether we like it or not, there will always be a factor that challenges us to the core, puts our skills and capacities at test, and makes us twist and turn to be back on track again. Point number 2. Just as the mathematical chemist Restrepo said, we can keep a table, but it is much more advisable to focus more on the system behind it. Our lives are so different, yet similar in the sense that they are forever changing. Few days can mark a 180-degree change. In case of losses, serious illnesses, or death, we find ourselves totally desperate, helpless, even broken down to pieces. Our failure to grasp sudden negative, drastic changes leaves us distraught. However, when we have an understanding of life, its hidden purposes, and potential learning opportunities, which can be correlated to that inner system that governs and directs life, we can remain intact, no matter what conditions we are in. Point number 3, we can remind ourselves and show our children that life is challenging, but not overwhelming, not destructive, not cruel. Unfortunately, this is what we hear parents saying in front of their children, sketching this grim picture of life. We all know that this grim picture exists, and we are not denying that, but there are ways to shed the light on this as temporary, and that it is never meant to stay. This too shall pass, as we hear it. I always tell my children, there are no bad people. There are people who were born good, were once beautiful and innocent babies, but they chose to do the bad thing, the bad act, and that there is always a way to get back on track again. Point number 4, there is never a fixed form, equation, or a way to do something. This is the core of the quantum. No matter what knowledge we have, and with due respect to the most intelligent minds on our planet, we, chemists, physicists, and mathematicians, educators, philosophers, are always debating and hypothesizing. This is a very important lesson to teach ourselves and our children. Adaptability is a key skill in this 21st century. Critical thinking is another key skill. I have always treasured questioning, and it is a pivotal part of my approach. It is not wrong to question and even change direction if needed, but not remain fixed to the same thought or habit. No thought or habit is bigger than us. We have the power over our thoughts and our habits. So we are here to think out loud together, question ourselves, others, and the world around us. That's what this series is about. The periodic table is meant to teach us about building blocks of the world we live in, and chemistry books state that. This will lead us to the next video. Are we here to look at a fixed periodic table with elements that are still under study, or are we here to unveil what is beyond that? Are we giving our learners the entire truth or a part of the truth? In the next video of this series, we will speak about the other side of understanding elements of building blocks, which schools do not include in its curricula. Stay tuned for next time, and if you like this series, please like and subscribe so that this knowledge reaches more and more open minds. And as I always say, knowledge is as vast as the world, awareness is as vast as the cosmos, and this is what we deserve. We deserve no less, because we are more.